Humanity, a Reddit sci-fi story. The alarm screams filled every corner of the ship. Commander Sarah Chin ran down the narrow hallway, her boots clanging against the metal floor. Red lights flashed on and off, making everything look like a nightmare. The wandering star was dying and she knew it. Engineering report, she shouted into her communicator. The voice that came back was broken and scared. Commander, the reactor is gone. We have maybe 6 hours of life support left. The radiation leak is getting worse. Sarah felt her stomach drop. They were 3 weeks from the nearest human outpost. Their distress beacon was broadcasting into empty space. Nobody was coming. Nobody even knew where they were. She reached the bridge and looked at her crew. 20 faces stared back at her. 20 people who trusted her to bring them home. Jenkins was holding his stomach, already sick from the radiation. Maria was trying to stop a nosebleed. They were all going to die out here in the dark between the stars. Keep the beacon running, Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. Someone might hear us, but she didn't. Believe it. This region of space was empty. They had been exploring, mapping new routes, being brave and stupid like humans always were. Now they would pay the price. Hours passed like years. The ship got colder. The air started to taste wrong. Jenkins collapsed and they carried him to the medical bay. The doctor shook his head. There was nothing he could do. The radiation was cooking them all from the inside. Sarah sat in her chair on the bridge and thought about Earth. She thought about her son, Marcus, only 5 years old. She had promised to come home. She had promised to bring him a star map showing where Mommy had gone. Now he would grow up without her. Commander, the communications officer suddenly sat up straight. I'm picking up something. A ship. It's not human. Sarah's heart jumped. Can you identify it? No, ma'am. The design is nothing in our database. They're approaching us. Fear mixed with hope in Sarah's chest. Alien contact was always dangerous. Humanity had only met 3 other species, and one of those meetings had ended in violence. But what choice did they have? The alien ship was beautiful. It looked like a sea creature from Earth's oceans, all smooth curves and flowing lines. It was much bigger than the wandering star. Lights glowed soft blue along its hull. A voice came over the radio. It was strange, full of clicking sounds, but the translation software worked. Human vessel, this is the Valkyrie ship, Gentle Current. We received your distress call. Your ship is dying. Do you need help? Sarah almost cried. Yes, God. Yes. We have 20 crew. Radiation exposure. Life support failing. There was a pause. Then the voice came back. We are not supposed to interfere with other species. Our laws are clear, but my crew has voted. We cannot leave you to die. Prepare for docking. The next few hours. We're a blur. The Valkyrie looked like reptiles that walked on 2 legs. Their skin was green and covered. In small scales. Their eyes were large and yellow, but their hands were gentle as they carried the sick humans to their medical bay. Captain Thesick stood over Sarah as his doctor worked on her crew. Your species is very fragile, he said. His voice was kind, not mocking. The radiation would have killed you in hours. Why are you helping us? Sarah asked. You said it was against your laws. Tessick's head tilted in a way that seemed like a smile. Because it is the right thing to do. Laws are important, but mercy is more important. My crew agreed. We will face punishment when we return home, but we will face it knowing we did what was right. They saved all 20 humans. Every single one. The Valkyrie gave them medicine, food, clean air. They fixed the wandering star enough to make it home. It took 2 weeks and the Valkyrie stayed with them the whole time, making sure they were safe. On the last day, before the wandering star jumped back into human space, Sarah stood with Captain Thesick in the docking bay. I don't know how to thank you, she said. No thanks are needed, they replied. Go home to your families, Sarah shook her head. No, you need to understand something about humans. We remember. We remember kindness and we remember friends. My people will know what you did. We will not forget this ever. She pulled out her personal recorder and spoke into it, making sure the computer saved every word. I am Commander Sarah Chin of the Terran Explorer Corps. Today, Captain Thesic and the crew of the Valkyrie ship Gentle Current saved 20 human lives. They risked their careers and their freedom to help strangers. Humanity remembers its friends. We will not forget. She gave a copy of the recording to Theok. Hey, keep this. I don't know if we'll ever meet again, but if your people ever need help, any help at all, you send this to us. You understand? Any help at all? They took the recording device. He didn't understand. Not really. How could he? The Valkyrie didn't think the way humans did. They didn't carry debts across years and decades. They didn't build their entire culture on loyalty and remembering, but he would learn. The whole galaxy would learn. Sarah Chin went home. She held her son Marcus and told him about the kind aliens who saved Mommy. She filed her report, and it went into the Terran historical database marked important, marked permanent. Captain Theok was demoted when he got home, just as he expected. But he kept the recording device. Sometimes late at night, he would play it and listen to the human woman's promise. Neither of them knew that some years later that promise would shake the stars. Many years later, the sky above Valkyrie Prime burned red with fire. Captain Silithsik watched from the bridge of her small patrol ship as another orbital station exploded. The Kresh had been attacking for 2 weeks and her people were losing badly. Captain, we're receiving evacuation orders. Her communications officer said his scales were pale with fear. All military vessels are to escort the colony ships away from the home system. Sella felt her chest tighten. Evacuation. That meant they had lost. The Valkyrie were leaving their home forever. The Kresh Dominion had come without warning. Their massive warships had dropped out of hyperspace and immediately began attacking. They gave no reason. They demanded no surrender. They just killed. The Valkyrie were not warriors. They had a small defense force mostly for rescue operations and dealing with space debris. They had no battleships, no weapons that could match the Kresh. They had tried to negotiate, tried to talk, tried everything except fight back effectively. Nothing worked. Now thousands to millions were dead. Whole colonies were silent. Refugee ships crowded the space lanes, desperate to escape before the Kresh caught them. Sella guided her ship toward the refugee fleet. She could see hundreds of vessels, most of them civilian transports, never meant for long journeys. Families were packed inside, carrying whatever they could grab. They were leaving behind homes, possessions, history, everything. How many got out? Sella asked quietly. Maybe half the population, her officer replied. Maybe less. The outer colonies had no warning. They're gone. Sella closed her eyes. Gone. Millions of people just gone. That night, after her ship docked with the main refugee fleet, Sella visited her grandfather in the medical ship. Elder Thesic was 200 years old. He lay on his bed, his scales dull with age, but his eyes were still sharp. Grandfather, Sella said, sitting beside him. We're abandoning the home world. Tomorrow. The Kreth are too strong. Thesic made a sound that was almost a laugh. We were always too peaceful, too kind. The galaxy mistakes kindness for weakness. The council sent requests for help to every species we know. Sella said everyone refused. They don't want to anger the Kresh. Desk was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, did they contact the humans? Sella blinked. The humans? Grandfather? They probably don't even remember us. I have something to show you. Thesic reached under his pillow with a shaking hand. He pulled out an old recording device. The human commander gave me this. She made me a promise. He played the recording. Sella heard the voice, strange and alien, speaking through the translator. Humanity remembers its friends. We will not forget. That was lifetimes ago, Sella said gently. She might not even be alive anymore. Humans live shorter lives than us, they agreed. But they also remember longer. It is strange, but I learned this about them. They carry debts across generations. They teach their children to honor the promises their parents made. Sella looked at the old recording device. It was foolish. The humans were far away. They had their own problems. Why would they care about the Valkyrie? But what other choice was there? The council won't authorize it, she said. They've given up on outside help. Thesic smiled, showing his old teeth. Then don't ask the council. You're a ship captain. You have access to long-range communications. Send the message yourself. I could be arrested for that. I was demoted for saving humans. Thesic said I never regretted it. Not once. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. Sella sat with that for a while. Then she stood up and kissed her grandfather's forehead. I'll do it. That night, alone in her ship's communication room, Sella composed a message. She attached the old recording from Sarah Chin. She added the star charts from that rescue years ago. She included footage of the crush attacks, the burning colonies, the refugee ships. And she wrote simply, "We once helped you. We remember our friends, do you?" She aimed the transmission toward human space and sent it at maximum power. She didn't expect an answer. Sella returned to her duties. She escorted refugee ships. She watched her home world grow smaller in the distance. She attended briefings where the council discussed finding a new home somewhere far from the crush. On the 5th day after she sent the message, Sella was on the bridge when alarms started screaming. "Captain, massive hyperspace signatures." Her sensor officer shouted, "Multiple contacts. Dozens of them." "No, hundreds." Sella's blood went cold. The crush had found the refugee fleet. This was the end. "Identify those ships," she ordered, her voice shaking. The sensor officer worked frantically. Then he looked up, his face confused. "Captain, those aren't crush signatures. The energy pattern is different. I'm checking the database. I'm checking. Captain, those are human ships." Sella stood up. Slowly. "How many?" Still counting. Over 300 vessels, military ships, cargo haulers, private vessels. Everything. They're all broadcasting the same message. "What message?" The officer's voice was full of wonder. "They're saying we remember. The Valkyrie are under our protection." Sella ran to the observation window. She could see them now, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Ship after ship after ship, all bearing the markings of Earth. They came. After years, across all that distance, they came. Sella grabbed her communicator. "Get me Elder Thess sick. He needs to know." They remembered, grandfather. The humans remembered. In his medical bed, they heard the news and smiled. He had been right about them. Humans were strange, violent, dangerous creatures. But they were also something else. They were loyal, and the crush were about to learn what that meant. Admiral Marcus Chin was drinking coffee in his office when the priority alert came through. He set down his cup and opened the file. What he saw made his blood freeze. The message was in Valkyrie. The translation appeared beneath it. Attached were star charts, old ones from years ago, and there was a voice recording. His great-grandmother's voice. Marcus played it 3 times. Each time he heard this voice promise that humanity would remember, that they would not forget their friends. He pulled up the historical files. The Wandering Star incident. 20 crew saved by a Valkyrie vessel. Captain Thesic had risked everything to save humans he didn't know. The new message was clear. The Valkyrie were dying. An enemy called the Crush was wiping them out. They needed help, and they had nowhere else to turn. Marcus stood up and walked to his window. Below him, Earth turned slowly, blue and green and beautiful. His mother had died 10 years ago. She had lived long enough to see him make admiral. Her last words to him were about duty, about honor, about keeping promises. He pressed his communicator. "Get me the Joint Chiefs. Emergency meeting now." 20 minutes later, Marcus stood in a room full of the most powerful people in the Terran military. He showed them the message. "The Valkyrie are not our allies," General Thompson said carefully. "We have no treaty with them. No obligation." "They saved 20 of our people," Marcus replied. "Years ago," Thompson said. "Those people are dead now. The universe has moved on." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. "My grandmother is dead. But her promise isn't. She spoke for humanity. She said we would remember. One woman's promise doesn't commit our entire fleet." Another admiral said, "We need to think strategically. The Crush are powerful. This could start a war." Marcus looked around the room. He saw a calculation in their eyes. Politics, strategy, everything except the one thing that mattered. Fine, he said. You're right. Since we are not in an active war, can't order our ships to help. That would be wrong. The generals relaxed slightly. But we can ask them, Marcus continued. He pulled out his personal command tablet and accessed Protocol Night Endgale. It was an old system built decades ago for emergencies. It created a direct communication line to every Terran ship captain, military, or civilian. It bypassed all the normal chains of command. Admiral, what are you doing? Thompson demanded. Marcus started typing. I'm sending a message to every captain in our fleet. I'm telling them what happened. I'm showing them the promise, and I'm asking who wants to go help the Valkyrie. You'll start a mutiny, a general warned. No, Marcus said. I'm giving our people a choice. He finished typing and hit send. The message went out to every Terran vessel in space. Thousands of them. Military battleships, cargo haulers, explorer vessels, mining ships, passenger transports, everything. The message was simple. The Valkyrie once saved 20 humans when they had nothing to gain. Now they're dying. Here are the coordinates. Who's coming? For a moment, nothing happened. The room was silent except for breathing. Then Marcus' tablet started beeping. One response, then another, then 10, then 100. The responses flooded in so fast the system started lagging. Every captain seemed to be answering at once. Captain Martinez of the cargo hauler Big Bertha. I'm changing course. See you there. This is Commander Jackson on the destroyer Vengeance. My crew voted. We're going. Captain Lou of the mining ship Fortune's Favor. We're not military, but we've got some weapons. Count us in. Captain Williams on the passenger liner, Starlight Dreams. I'm dropping off my passengers at the nearest station and heading to Valkyrie space. My grandparents or great-grandparents were on the Wandering Star. I owe them. On and on they came. Military ships breaking formation. Cargo haulers dumping their loads at the nearest station. Private vessels changing course mid-journey. Even a prison transport ship sent a message. This is Warden Peters on the lockdown. My prisoners voted too. They want to help. We're coming. General Thompson stared at the screen in shock. This is insane. They're abandoning their posts. Ignoring orders. I didn't give them orders, Marcus said quietly. I asked them a question. They're giving their answer. Within 2 hours, over 300 ships had committed to going to Valkyrie space. The number kept growing. Ship captains were coordinating on their own, forming strike groups, sharing intelligence, planning attack runs. The Terran military hadn't ordered any of this. They were just watching it happen. Sir, Marcus Aide said, pulling up a tactical display. There. Organizing themselves. Captain Rodriguez on the Beijing is acting as fleet coordinator. They've established supply lines. Medical ships are grouping in the center. Combat vessels on the outside. The Remembrance launches in 3 hours. Anyone who wants to join us is welcome. He walked out of the room. In the docking bay, his ship's crew was already preparing for launch. They had heard the message, too. They were ready. Marcus stood on his bridge and watched as more and more ships reported ready. The fleet was assembling itself, coordinating without central command, moving with a purpose that transcended orders. Sir, his communications officer said, we're receiving a message from the civilian ship Hope's Light. It's a medical vessel. They're volunteering to join the fleet. Welcome them, Marcus said. Sir, they're also asking if we know what we're getting into. The Kresh are supposed to be very dangerous. Marcus said the Valkyrie saved 20 people. Those 20 had children. Those children had children, and so on. How many humans are alive today because Captain Thesic showed mercy? Hundreds? Thousands? The Valkyrie didn't save 20 lives. They saved entire bloodlines. Families, futures, and now they need help. The fleet prepared to jump. 317 vessels carrying thousands of humans, all heading toward a war that wasn't theirs. But it was theirs. The moment Captain Thesic chose mercy over protocol, it became theirs. The Kresh had no idea what was coming for them. Commander Dreth of the Kresh Dominion watched his screens with satisfaction. Another Valkyrie colony was burning. Soon the entire sector would belong to the Crush. Sir, we're detecting hyperspace signatures, his sensor officer said. Dreth barely looked up. More refugees. Let them run. We'll hunt them down later. No, sir. These are different. Very different. I'm reading over 300 vessels. They're coming in fast. That got Dreth's attention. He stood up and walked to the main display. The signatures were appearing on the edge of the system. Ship after ship dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Who are they? Dreth demanded. Unknown, sir. Wait, I'm getting identification codes now. They're human vessels. Terran ships. Dreth frowned. Humans? What are humans doing here? He pulled up what little data the Crush had on humanity. A relatively new species, moderate technology, no major wars in their history. They kept to themselves mostly. Nothing impressive. They must be evacuating the Valkyrie, Dreth decided. Probably some humanitarian mission. Ignore them unless they interfere. But the human ships weren't heading toward the refugee fleet. They were spreading out in attack formation, positioning themselves between the Crush fleet and the Valkyrie colonies. Sir, we're being hailed. It's the humans. Put it through, Dreth said, annoyed. The face that appeared on his screen was human, male, older, with gray hair and hard eyes. This is Admiral Marcus Chin of the Terran Expeditionary Force. The Valkyrie are under our protection. You will cease all hostile actions immediately and withdraw from the system. Dreth stared at him for a moment. Then he laughed. You're joking. You have no authority here. Human. This is Crush territory now. Leave or be destroyed. The human's expression didn't change. You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal. After that, we will consider you hostile and act accordingly. The screen went dark. Dreth looked at his officers. Several of them were smiling. They're insane, his weapons officer said. They're outnumbered. Our ships are bigger and better armed. Prepare for combat, Dreth ordered. Let's teach these humans not to interfere in Crush business. The Crush fleet had 87 warships, large, heavily armored vessels built for conquest. They had crushed the Valkyrie easily. These humans would be no different. The hour passed. The human fleet did not withdraw. Instead, they tightened their formation. All ships attack pattern Theta. Dreth commanded. Destroy them. The Crush ships surged forward, weapons charging. It should have been a quick battle. It wasn't. The human ships moved like nothing Dreth had ever seen. They didn't try to outgun the Crush vessels. Instead, they swarmed. 3 or 4 human ships would target a single Crush battleship, hitting it. From different angles, coordinating their fire with perfect precision. Sir, we're taking heavy damage on the forward line, his officer reported. The humans are targeting our weapon systems and engines. They're disabling ships without destroying them. Then destroy them, Dreth shouted. But the humans were fast. Their smaller ships darted between Crush vessels, making it hard to get a clear shot. And when Crush ships did hit them, the humans didn't retreat. They kept coming. Dreth watched in horror as a human cargo hauler, clearly damaged and venting atmosphere, suddenly accelerated toward one of his battleships. What is that ship doing? Sir, it's on a collision course. The cargo hauler slammed into the Crush battleship at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. They're ramming us. Dreth's weapons officer shouted. They're deliberately sacrificing their ships. It got worse. A group of human medical vessels had positioned themselves near a cluster of Valkyrie colony ships. When Crush fighters tried to attack the colonies, the medical ships moved into the line of fire. They had no weapons, but they used their own hulls as shields. Sir, the humans are protecting the Valkyrie civilians. With their own bodies, his sensor officer reported. They're taking hits meant for the refugees. Dreth couldn't understand it. What kind of species did this? The Valkyrie were nothing to the humans. Why were they dying for them? Focus fire on that large human ship, Dreth ordered, pointing at Admiral Chen's flagship. Kill their leader. The Crush fleet concentrated their weapons on the Remembrance. The human flagship shields blazed with energy, flickering and failing under the assault. But before they could finish it, a dozen human ships moved in front of the Remembrance. They formed a wall with their own vessels absorbing the fire meant for their admiral. "They're protecting him," Dretha's officer said, voice filled with disbelief. "They're letting themselves be destroyed to keep him alive." 3 human ships were blown apart, but the Remembrance survived and the human counterattack was brutal. Hours passed. The battle turned into chaos. The Kresh had better ships, but the humans had something else. They had coordination that seemed almost telepathic. They had a willingness to sacrifice themselves that Dreth found terrifying. And they had a fury that drove them forward no matter the cost. "Sir, we've lost over 50 ships," his officer reported. "Our casualties are severe." "The humans are not stopping." Dreth looked at his screens. Human ships were everywhere, pressing the attack with relentless efficiency. Every civilian vessels were fighting, using whatever weapons they had improvised. Mining ship had attached its industrial laser to a targeting system and was cutting through Kresh armor. A passenger liner was using its mass as a battering ram. Even the prison transport was firing crude missiles made from its cargo containers. Every human ship seemed to know what every other human ship was doing. They moved like a single organism with 300 bodies. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting a message on all frequencies." His communications officer said, "What does it say?" "It's repeating over and over. It says years ago the Valkyrie saved one of our ships. They showed us mercy. We will not let them die. You cannot break us. You cannot stop us. Leave now or be destroyed." Dreth felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Fear. The Kresh were warriors. They had conquered dozens of species, but they had never fought anyone like this. The humans weren't fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for loyalty, for honor, for a debt that was years old. "Sir, Admiral Chin is hailing us again." Dreth accepted the call. The human admiral's face filled his screen. There was blood on his forehead and smoke behind him, but his eyes were steady. "Commander Dreth," Chin said quietly, "I'm going to say this once more. Withdraw from Valkyrie's space right now or my fleet will destroy every single one of your ships. We will not stop. We will not surrender. We will die before we let you harm our friends." Dreth looked at his tactical display. He was losing against an enemy that should have been easy to defeat. He was losing. "Why?" Dreth asked. "Why are you doing this? What are the Valkyrie to you?" Chin smiled, and it was a terrible smile. "Many years ago, they saved 20 humans. Those people mattered to us. Every single life matters to us. And we remember. We always remember." Dreth made his decision. "All ships withdraw. Full retreat. Get us out of this system." The Kresh fleet turned and fled. Behind them, the human fleet held position, making sure the retreat was real. On the Remembrance, Admiral Chin slumped in his chair. They had won, but the cost had been high. 43 human ships destroyed, thousands of casualties, but the Valkyrie were safe, the refugees were safe. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Captain Kathiak," his communications officer said. Chin smiled, put her through. The Valkyrie woman's face appeared on his screen. She was emotional. "Admiral Chin, I don't have words. You came. You all came. You saved us." "Your grandfather saved us first," Chin replied. "We're just returning the favor. That's what friends do." 3 weeks had passed since the battle. The Kresh were gone, fled back to their own territory. The Valkyrie home world was safe. The refugees were coming home. Admiral Marcus Chin stood on the surface of Valkyrie Prime, watching the reconstruction efforts. Human engineers worked side by side with Valkyrie builders, repairing damaged structures and rebuilding what had been destroyed. A young human woman, barely 20, was teaching a group of children how to reinforce a wall. A Valkyrie elder was showing a human technician their traditional building methods. Everywhere Marcus looked, he saw cooperation and friendship. "Admiral Chin," a voice said behind him. Marcus turned to see Captain Selethesik approaching. Beside her, supported by a walking frame, was a very old Valkyrie. His scales were dull with age, but his eyes were bright. "This is my grandfather," Sela said. Elder Thessic, he wanted to meet you. Marcus felt his throat tighten. This was the man, the one who had saved his grandmother and her crew years ago, the one who started everything. He looked up at Marcus with those yellow eyes. You are Sarah Chen's family. I see her in your face. She spoke of you, Marcus said. She told me and my children about the kind alien captain who saved her when he had nothing to gain. I gained something, Thessic said softly. I gained the knowledge that I did the right thing. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. My grandmother left this for you. She recorded it before she died. She made me promise to deliver it if we ever found you again. He pressed play. His grandmother's voice filled the air. Older than in the first recording, but still strong. Captain Thike, if you're hearing this, then someone has found you. I don't know what the circumstances are, but I know this. Humanity keeps its promises. We always have. We always will. Thank you for giving me the chance to watch my family grow up. Thank you for giving him the chance to exist. You saved 20 lives, but you saved thousands more. All the children we had, all the grandchildren, they're all here because of you. We will never forget that. Never. Thessic's eyes filled with emotions. Valkyrie didn't cry the same way humans did, but the emotion was the same. I had no idea, he whispered. I just wanted to help. That's all it takes, Marcus said. One act of kindness, one moment of choosing to do the right thing even when it's hard. You changed everything. Celis spoke up. Admiral, the Valkyrie Council wants to hold a formal ceremony. They want to thank your people properly to establish a permanent alliance between our species. Marcus nodded. My people would like that. The ceremony was held in the central plaza of the Valkyrie capital. Thousands gathered, both Valkyrie and human. The entire human fleet had come down to the surface. Even the wounded who could walk attended. The Valkyrie Council leader, an ancient female named CES, stood at the podium. Today, we honor the humans of Terra. They came across the stars to save us. They asked for nothing in return. They expected no reward. They came because years ago, we showed mercy to 20 of their people. They came because they remember their friends. She turned to Marcus. Admiral Chin, your people have shown us something we thought was rare in the galaxy. True. Loyalty, unshakable honor. You have saved our entire civilization. How can we possibly repay this debt? Marcus stepped forward. The plaza was silent. He looked out at all those faces, human and watching him. Elder Thessic asked me the same question. Years ago, Marcus said, when my grandmother asked how to thank him for saving her crew, he said no thanks were needed. He said he was just doing what was right. Marcus walked over to where they sat in a place of honor. That's my answer to you. No thanks are needed. You saved humans when you could have ignored us. Those 20 people had children. Those children had children. My grandmother was on that ship. If she had died, I wouldn't exist. My children wouldn't exist. Their children wouldn't exist. He turned back to the crowd. How many humans are alive today because one Valkyrie captain chose mercy? How many of us owe our existence to that one decision? Hundreds? Thousands? Maybe more. Marcus' voice grew stronger. Your grandfather didn't save 20 lives, Captain Sella. He saved entire bloodlines, entire futures. Every person in my fleet is here because of him. Every single one of us. We're all connected to those people he saved. The crowd was absolutely silent. So, you ask how you can repay us? Marcus continued, you already did those years ago. You showed us that there are good people in the universe, people worth fighting for, worth dying for. That's a gift beyond measure. Thessic stood up slowly, supported by his walking frame. He moved to stand beside Marcus. I have something to say, the old Valkyrie announced. Everyone turned to listen. When I saved those humans, my government punished me. Thessic said, they said I broke the rules. They said I interfered where I shouldn't. They were wrong. I made the right choice, and I knew it in my heart. But I never imagined this. I never thought that one decision would matter so much. He looked at Marcus. Your grandmother promised me that humanity would remember. I kept her recording for years. On bad days, I would play it and wonder if she meant it. If humans really remembered debts that old. The voice cracked with emotion. Now I know you came with hundreds of ships. You fought for us. You died for us for a kindness shown 4 decades ago. I do not understand humans fully, but I understand this. You are the most loyal species I have ever encountered, and I am proud to call you friends. Marcus embraced the old Valkyrie gently. Around them, humans and Valkyrie began to cry and cheer together. Captain Rodriguez, who had coordinated the fleet during the journey, stepped forward. Admiral, the captains have something to say. One by one, the human captains came forward. Each one told their story. My grandfather was on the Wandering Star, Captain William said. He met my grandmother after coming home. I'm here because of you, Elder Thasik. My wife's great-aunt was saved by you, Captain Martinez said. Our children exist because you showed mercy. I'm not related to anyone on that ship, said Captain Liu. But I came anyway because that's what humans do. We protect our friends. On and on they came, each one connecting themselves to that moment. Some through blood, some through marriage, some through simple loyalty. It didn't matter. They all came. The ceremony ended with a feast. Humans and Valkyrie ate together, shared stories, made friendships that would last generations. Children of both species played together in the plaza. Late that night, Marcus stood with Thea on a balcony overlooking the city. The old Valkyrie looked at the stars. I still don't fully understand your species, Theisk admitted. You are violent and dangerous. You brought hundreds of ships to a war that wasn't yours. You lost thousands of your people, all for a kindness years ago. Marcus nodded. That's what makes us human, too. We're dangerous, yes. We're violent, yes. But we're also loyal. We're also honorable. We remember our friends, and we protect what we love. He put his hand on the old Valkyrie's shoulder. You showed mercy when you didn't have to. You chose kindness when it would have been easier to ignore us. That changed everything. Not just for 20 people, but for our entire species. You helped show us that there are people still worth saving in this universe.